What's up, you guys? It is time for yet another 60 from the Tek Daily Duels channel. This, of course, is the video where I'm going to take you through a deck that wins. Tell you how to build it, how to run it, and show it running the rest of the week. Tune in every Monday for more. This, of course, is what's yours is mine. A little disclaimer on this deck beforehand, though, and a lot of my decks are like this. This is a very specific deck idea that we're trying to go for. We're actually probably going to pull off a trophy grab during this week as well, for those of you that are hunters. This is a very specific deck idea, so it's not fully optimized to be the best rush red-black deck. I've actually already done that in a Rakdos Rush video that you can definitely check out on the channel. It's in the same playlist as all my 2015 deck techs, so be sure to check that out. But the thing about this deck is we're very much trying to accomplish a certain win con. So that's what it is. It's not the optimum red-black rushdown deck, but I think it's the optimum way to try and complete this certain task and go for this thing. So let's go in here and take a look at how they break this up. We've got 14 creatures, which is a bit of a misnomer here. Let's go ahead, because we do run the Krenko's command. So it's not quite 14 creatures, it's more like 18 creatures, but then 2 of those generate 2 creatures, whatever. But as far as spells and our opponent's counters are concerned, we've got 14 creatures, 24 other spells, 22 lands. The lands are a little high for a reason. This thing needs to curve out and hit that 4th mana whenever it can. 21 lands was not running as well or as optimally as I was hoping it would. So that's kind of how that broke down. Speed, I completely agree with that. It's a kind of a rushdown deck, but I held a little bit back for the 3 and 4 drops so that we can get the win con that we're specifically looking for. And then color distribution, as always, is just bullshit. That's a pretty good indication of where we're skewing, even though we've got some double blacks and things that are going to throw that off. So the idea behind what's yours is mine, just for general edification, is that we are going to use Portent of Betrayal, Act of Treason, to grab our opponent's stuff. We might use a Fling to also kill them, or Bloodflow Connoisseur to kill their creature. Basically what we want to do here is we're going to rush them down with really quick little damage in the early game. First turns 1, 2, 3... maybe turn 4 a little bit. We're going to be pinging them. We're going to be using stuff like the Goblin Arsonist and things like that to just hit them, do as much little damage as possible, get them down to around 10 in that neighborhood, maybe 13, and then start doing stuff like the Fling and things like that, which we will talk about in a moment. We also have some alternate win cons if all we get to work with are our little guys. Let's talk about this in a grander scale as far as the more minute details of this thing. We've got 4 copies of Farrakhan's Chosen. This is a fantastic Death Touch snake. We'll be doing a version of this deck without premiums, don't worry. So if you don't have this snake, we'll figure something out for you. It's also, it's a pretty interesting build as well. I've already been working on that a little bit, so stay tuned. It's just a well-known commercial. Farrakhan's Chosen is great because it has the Death Touch. It's going to pressure our opponents, have them get rid of some of the little guys, but more than anything, they're going to want to not block this. And it's going to force through the extra points of damage that we need. Like I said, we want our opponent to be around 13 or so before we really turn on. Bloodghast is great in this deck because, like I said, I do run the 22 lands, which is a little bit more than I'd want. But we run a couple less creatures than I would want in this deck as well. Bloodghast is great in both those regards because it has recursion. It even has haste if they're at 10 or less. It's a really great card. The landfall is helped out by how many lands we have, and it recurs, so it's a good card. Bloodflow Connoisseur is going to be a +1/+1. This is a instant speed combat tricks. They always see them, though, so be careful with the Bloodflow Connoisseur. You might sack out a couple of creatures and find yourself holding the Connoisseur from a Vapor Snag or some kind of pop-up mechanic. But that card's going to come back into your hand, and you're going to feel real upset. Be careful with the Bloodflow Connoisseur. We want to use it to sack out their creatures in case we don't kill them. They use something weird that we didn't see coming, that life gain convoke card or something like that, so our math's all screwed up. We want to be able to sack out their creatures so they don't keep it. Bloodghast we run 2 of. Bloodflow Connoisseur we run 4 of. We run 4 Goblin Arsonists. This is just a great rundown card. It's going to bash your opponent really quickly. 4 copies of him just because it's, potential 2 damage. It's a great 1-drop, everything about that. Shock is 2 damage to the face if we ever need it, which sometimes we do. But more than that, it's also going to be able to pick off little guys so we can continue our beatdown with our 1/1s across the board. Also, it's possible that after we grab one of their creatures with the Act of Treason or stuff, they might block it so we can kill it. You know, shock is just a nice little surprise mechanic. 1 mana is all we have to leave open for that, and the 2 damage is going to come in handy in a multitude of scenarios that I'm sure we'll see throughout the week. 4 copies of shock, 4 copies of fling, like I said. That's just to add a little bit of extra damage through. You can already see on the right there, Trumpet Blast. So fling is part of our alternate win con, as well as part of the fun mechanic that we want to do with sacrificing an opponent's creature, which is also the that was the inception, or the concept behind this deck. The driving philosophy behind this deck was kind of to sack out opponent's creatures. Fling is also part of our alternate win con as well, though, where we just buff our own guys and do a shit ton of damage quickly. Krinko's Command's another great rundown card for Fling for Krinko's Command all day. 2 dudes for 2 mana. Even though it's sorcery speed, very important to have that in an aggro deck like this. Trumpet Blast is going to give +2/+0 until end of turn to all our attacking creatures. So this is really important. We run 4 of these. One of this deck's biggest opponents is going to be another rundown deck, the white rundown deck. Worst things for you are going to be life gain and stuff, but with the Act of Treason and the Importance of Betrayal, you can kind of get around that. But if they're just playing a ton of 1/1s, then we're in trouble, because we're evenly matched, but we've taken out a lot of our aggro for the Flings and the Act of Treasons and the Portent of Betrayal. So like I was saying, this is not the optimal build of Black-Red, but this is the optimal build to try and do the Act of Treason, Portent of Betrayal stuff, I believe. And one of the reasons that is because we have the 4 Trumpet Blast. So if we're attacking into a wall of 1/1s, that's not going to be anything we want to Act of Treason, Portent of Betrayal, but if we time it right, our unblocked creatures might be able to utilize the Trumpet Blast to attack for extra damage, get our opponent dead that way. So if we're in kind of an equal footing match with a deck that has similar rundown strategy, we're going to be in trouble, I'm not going to lie to you. Hopefully Trumpet Blast and Fling can get us there. If they're using bigger creatures eventually, even life gain creatures, we can Act of Treason them, and then we get some benefits from that, and hopefully we can also sack that creature out in the end. Like I've been saying, we run 4 Act of Treasons and 4 Portents of Betrayal because they are the crux of this deck. I love this one because we get to scry. They're a little bit expensive, which is why we run 22 lands, because we want to see around 6 mana on the field for us to do our killing blow, and that's also really good for Bloodghast. That is going to be this deck. If you have specific questions for certain cards that I left out and certain cards that I put in, I implore you to please leave a comment down below. I will do my best to answer any of those inquiries, but we've also got a ton of really helpful people down in the comments that will also be doing their best to answer those as well. It's a really great community that we've built here on the Tek Daily Duels channel, and there's a lot of really helpful people down there, so you can get kind of a second opinion, because I am by no means the end-all, be-all aficionado of how to play Magic the Gathering. Thanks a lot for checking out this video. I hope you enjoyed it. We're going to be running this deck all week, like I said, and you're going to see it in action. Decide for yourself what some of those decisions that I made were. The only thing that we're kind of missing is Furor the Bitten, and that is something where there's just not a lot of room because we're already so low on creatures. So we'd have to take out something else. The thing that you would take out to put in Furor the Bitten is Shock. That's a really questionable. I'll jump in here for one more second and just give you a caveat. If you want to take out Furor the Bitten, or take out Shock and put in Furor the Bitten, I agree with you, but I also disagree with you. Throughout the week, if you want to do like a fun exercise, every time I have Shock in my hand, just pretend it's Furor the Bitten and think about how much better I would be doing. Because if you see that turn 2 or whatever, you're hitting for a ton of damage multiple times. It's an extra 2 damage theoretically multiple times. So if it hits twice, it's already done better than Shock. But Shock is a surprise and can go directly to the face. It doesn't have that drawback of being able to be blocked. Furor the Bitten's a great card. I need a little bit more flexibility. Like I said, if this was just a straight rundown deck, we would have Furor the Bitten in instead of Shock. That's what I did in my straight rundown in the Rakdos Rush. But we need more flexibility here because this deck is weak against a lot more archetypes than our other beatdown deck. So that's my reasoning behind that, just to try and head that one off on the pass. But if you have other questions, be sure to get at me. Thanks a lot for watching. Be sure to check out my Technovolver channel. That is the other channel that I have on YouTube. We've got a Road to the FGC fighting game tutorials. We're going to learn fighting games together. If you want to stop by and teach me a thing or two about fighting games, please do that because I'd love your input. We've also got a Let's Play 1001 Spikes that's been going on for like 50 years. We're going to be finishing that soon, I promise. Lots of it is recorded already. But even if you don't check out any of that, I want to thank you for checking out this video. Subscribe if you like what you see because that definitely helps us out. And I will see you all tomorrow.